Of Michigan International Speedway. Roger Curtis joins us. Hi, Roger.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Hey, we're terrific. As I said, I feel pretty good for a man my age, and you can't complain about that. Beautiful weather here. Hopefully it's going to hang in there for another 2 weeks as we get the race coming up at MIS. And the thing I wanted to ask you about, some of the stuff that you guys always put on such a great, not just a race, but a show. What are some of the stuff, the ancillary things that are going on at MIS for this race weekend?
Wow, as always, it's almost like a state fair here, and all the things that we're bringing in on the fan plaza and the kids zone out there, the family friendly stuff that we've got, the free concert on Saturday night for our truck guests and infield guests that'll be here for the VFW 200 with Fuel and the Romantics, and I mean, there's just stuff going on all over. There's concerts in almost every campground, and there's ride and drives. There's so much going on. There's an MMA event. I think it's on either Thursday or Friday. My gosh, there's just so much stuff going on. Fish Your Bass Off, charity fishing tournament with Kevin Van Dam and Mark Zona. Jamie McMurray, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Newman, a bunch of drivers on Thursday night. So for charity, for MIS Cares. So there's just so many things going on starting basically Monday morning when we open the facility. We turn into Disneyland for a week, and really looking forward to it. And, oh, by the way, there is a race.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But you need to send us a couple of those Fish Your Bass Off T-shirts down here, Roger. We could use those. That's one of my favorites. The last race, the big story was it was the first race on the newly paved Michigan International Speedway, and the speeds were all the talk, of course, for the leading up to the actual race day. I know you had a tire test there last week. What's the anticipation? What are we going to see speed-wise in August at Michigan?
Well, I talked to all the drivers and to the folks at Goodyear, and I think we will still remain NASCAR's fastest track. I have no doubt about that. And so I think the speeds are still going to be exhilarating. They are going to be a little bit slower. They're not going to be 204, 205 like Greg Biffle was posting on Friday and Marcus Ambrose posted in qualifying.
Right.
But I'm anticipating, based on their feedback, race speeds in the 195, 196 range, and probably a pole speed of right around 200. So a little bit down, but again, my hat's off to the guys who have the most thankless job in this sport, and that's Goodyear, because if there's a good race, no one says anything, and if there's a bad race, they immediately point the fingers at these guys. And Goodyear really came close to having the perfect tire in June. They missed it by just a smidgen with the blistering we had on the left side, but they immediately did yeoman's effort. Unbelievable, brought in all these tires from Charlotte. They were good tires. We had a great race, very competitive, junior winning, high speeds, great show. And then they took all that data and came back and did another test, and they're now making a tire specific for us that I think will be, if not perfect, really, really, really close.
Roger, when you say a perfect tire, a lot of the drivers say that they would like to have the tires go away faster than what they do, and that would be what would make the racing maybe a little bit better, as opposed to a perfect tire. And I guess there's that balance all the time. I remember – way back in the 60s, some of these guys would run 400 miles on the same set of tires, But and the opposite of that was tires that go away in 15, 20 laps. So how do you balance that? I guess that's Goodyear's job to do that. But in your mind as a promoter, what would you rather have, a tire that could last the whole 400 miles or a tire that would go away after 20 laps?
Well,
because you're a race fan too.
Based on what the car is today, and not knowing and just reading a little bit of Carl Edwards' comments from Martinsville about the first test of the new car that they're rolling out in 2013, I think that, you have to have some give in the tires. I mean, I think that does make a better show. Mm-hmm. The better drivers come out. It's when you have your lead changes. because some guy can get around on used tires a little bit better than the other guy. I mean, we've all seen that through the history of racing. Where Goodyear came so close in June is I think they had that soft tire that was going to do that. They just missed it by a smidgen, which is what led to the blistering, because you don't want a tire that gives up so quickly it's going to start blistering.
Right.
And it's got so much heat in it that instead of giving away, it gives up and blows up and blisters. So, and that's why I think Goodyear has such a thankless job trying to find that unbelievably perfect balance of what are the majority of drivers going to say is the perfect give-up time, if you will, the give-up number of laps, versus somebody saying too hard versus blistering. And that is a really fine line for those guys to walk, and I think they've done a really good job with a car that has just unbelievable downforce.
We're talking with Roger Curtis, president of MIS Speedway. And, Roger, Dodge came out today, says they're not coming back next year. You guys are so close to Detroit. Everybody talks about it being the home racetrack for the Big Four. Will it have any effect, if you thought about it, with Dodge not being there next year at all as far as hospitality and things like that? Do you see any change as far as you're concerned?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a huge disappointment. I mean, it's not going to devastate us, but, yeah, there's some tickets involved there. There's some support in the marketplace from some promotional support. I've talked to some of their officials. We were all of us, so excited about what they had come up with for their 2013 car.
Right.
I thought that Dodge was the leader of all the manufacturers utilizing the Nationwide Series to start taking a look at what the cars could really look like as NASCAR kind of loosened up the reins on some of that creativity to get the showroom brands back out on the racetrack. I thought what they'd done the last 2 years in the Nationwide Series were phenomenal. I was so pumped about their program for Cup. I loved what Penske was doing. Roger made a business decision, obviously, that, and I don't fault him for that, I mean, in any way, shape, or form, but I think the repercussions of that decision went so much wider and deeper than what anyone thought initially, because I can guarantee you Roger almost thought that it was a given that he would switch to Ford, get his engines from Roush Yates, and yet continue to use his engine shop to build Dodge engines for whoever Dodge had as a team, or teams, plural, next year. And when Ford said no to that, that set in motion a whole series of events that, my personal opinion, and I don't think anyone has come right out and said this, but Dodge just could not get that engine program leased, purchased, whatever, from Penske to go, because there were teams that were willing to switch to Dodges. So it really comes down to the engines.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of what we've been hearing as well, is that there was no way to get that engine program up and running at this short notice in a different location or under a different leadership, I guess. So that's kind of where it fell. Wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you a little bit about the weather that plagued Pocono and your the way you have to address severe weather at a venue like you have. You've got 100,000 people, not only in your seats but in the infield as well.
Kind of in your care.
Yeah, and they're pretty much in your care. And how do you run that fine line between not panicking people and making sure that their safety is met?
Well, I think it's a very fair question, and I'm going to start first by just saying, obviously, like all of you, our thoughts and prayers are still with the families there in Pocono, and I know a few of them are still in the hospital. I know Carl Edwards, I thought, was very cool. He actually called a couple of them and had spoken to them. So a very, very unfortunate situation, and hopefully everyone that's still in the hospital gets out okay, and the Zimmerman family, finds a way to make it through all this. But we had an incident last August race. I can share with you guys that there were not cars on track, but it was our concert, and we had people already headed over to the concert. We have an emergency action plan. We have an emergency operations center that in one room sets people from Homeland Security, from the FBI, from state law enforcement, from local law enforcement, regional law enforcement, National Weather Service actually is on our property with all of their equipment on race weekend in that room. So our emergency operations center and our subsequent action plan covers emergencies well beyond just weather, obviously, but weather being a big one for us and a concern being an open-air facility. So we had this concert, and we had the Weather Service saying during the truck race, hey, some storms are popping up west of us. They let us know immediately when watches were issued, and watches are concerning, but we're not going to take any action. And they let us know, hey, some warnings are probably going to be issued for your county, your area. And so at that point, looking at they had the weather, the wind speeds, they had the lightning strikes there. We made the decision. We pulled the plug on the concert. We used all of our tools from social media, tweeting, texting. We have a text service. We have a mobile app. We have Facebook. We have the big screens. We have the PA. We have the scoreboard. Our ushers are equipped to go through the stands, talk to fans. We have all of our emergency vehicles are equipped to go through the campgrounds and alert people. And we let everyone know. And then lo and behold, the storm turned at the last minute, and we didn't get a drop of rain. And we heard from no one. No one complained about the decision that we made because they knew we were putting safety first.
Right.
And I think the same thing would come into play if there ever was an issue with NASCAR. We have senior people in the control tower with Mike Helton and his team. And I'm telling you, I don't care what the media is saying, who did what. I wasn't at Pocono, but I can assure you that if there's a warning issued for our area, that means that there's stuff coming. We're going to start letting fans know. NASCAR can do whatever they want with the drivers and crews. That's their stuff. But we're going to let fans know. After that, guys, after you communicate, it does, I hate to say this, but there is some personal responsibility.
Right. Sure.
If I tell you danger is imminent and you choose to stay in the path of danger, that's somewhat your fault at that point.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Charlie said the same thing in hour number 1 of our show as well. And, people don't want to, take responsibility for their own actions. But like you said, you have so many pieces of your infrastructure that are available to get that information there, which, really you didn't have that 5 years ago, really, with all the social media and everything. So it's really amazing the amount of information you can get to people and how fast you can do it. We applaud you for that, and we do expect great weather. We're not going to have any problems whatsoever in 2 weeks when we get up to MIS, so we will see how that all plays out. Roger, thanks so much for being with us. As always, we truly appreciate it. We hope a great event is going to happen. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for all the great fans from down there. If you don't already have your tickets, I got to get our plug in. Please
Absolutely.
Go to mispeedway.com. We unleashed a new website today. It's beautiful. Or you can call 800-354-1010. Come see NASCAR's fastest track, and maybe Junior will win again.
That would be great. And I think I haven't said anything yet, but I think Monty Dutton will be at Captain Chuck's again.
I think so. That's the plan.
There we go. Monty Dutton will be playing at Captain Chuck's. So that's another important thing to add to your list there as well.
It is a state fair now. Look at that.
See?
Yes,
there you go.
Yes, it is. There's a lot of other punchlines we could add to that, Roger, but we will just say we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks so much, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Take care, guys.
All right, bye. Roger
Curtis.
What a great guy. What a great guy.